Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning in our SMME Entrepreneurs Corner. My name is Phumzile Njoko, and I'm joined today by Nomfundo and my colleague, Sibongile Shongwe. Today, in our Entrepreneurs Corner, we are talking about insurance. Insurance is one of those underrated, services, I would call it, that SMEs really do pay attention to it, and sometimes it's really a genuine cost issue. I mean, specifically now, in this difficult economic situation we're all finding in, we start to cut down costs and things like that, and insurance is sadly one of those things. So Nomfundo is very seasoned in the insurance industry, both in the corporate setting as well as in the SMME space. So today she will be taking us through a masterclass on insurance, specifically for us entrepreneurs. What is it that we need to look out for? We want to learn from her how we can manage cost but not give up that insurance cost line, because it's an important, I believe it's an important service to have for sustainability of businesses. I mean, an example that Nomfundo was making is the July uprising. Was it in July? The looting. A lot of SMMEs were not insured. They couldn't come back to life after that, and as a result, our economy is suffering. We all know that entrepreneurship is really the biggest contributor or stimulator of economic prosperity. So we need our entrepreneurs to prosper. We need our small businesses to do well so that we can start creating those jobs. We can't only be looking to government and big corporates. So without further ado, let me send it over to you, Mfundo. Let's do a little bit of intro on your side. Tell us what are you about, and then let's get into the topic and how it relates to us as entrepreneurs.
Thank you. Thank you, Phum, and thank you everyone for the invitation. I appreciate it. So Nomfundo, interestingly, I'm from the Eastern Cape, but I didn't start out going insurance. I had taken insurance as a fill-up course, but I have been in love with insurance since. And so this year celebrated 20 years of insurance. And during that 20 years, I have looked after what used to be called short-term. It now is called non-life. And life insurance is predominantly where I have been. I've done both, individual life as well as group. So it's been a wide and varied journey. And throughout, I have developed markets as well as products. And so for me, part of my passion is getting people to understand the importance of insurance in your everyday life.
Yeah.
So that I'll pick up on the themes as we go in the conversation that are giving me this passion about how we can use insurance, especially then as SMEs today, to definitely move on and move our businesses in the right direction.
Okay, so you will be able to talk to us about the insurance, not only in the products, service, when we're selling a product, because sometimes we really just look, when we think insurance, we always looking at, are my cars insured? Are my laptops insured? Is the building insured, etc. I also really want us to also delve into insurance in the services space. Yes. There's a big take up, especially in the consulting spaces. Entrepreneurs consult, coaching, and coaching. I was having a very interesting conversation with one of my coaches where we realized that she actually needed to take cover on the services that she offers. Yes, we are not America. We don't sue each other every day like how they do, but if you are in services space, it's very, very critical to also start thinking about how you insure. Okay, so I'll hand it over to you. Let's see what you have prepared for us, Nomfundo.
Thank you. Thank you. It's interesting that you mentioned the services space, because mainly those are the people who think they don't need insurance. And those are the people who end up being most affected. But let's get through to it. So part of the things that we'll discuss is why insurance, the research that we saw on MSMEs, and then what should we actually insure, what should we prioritize, and some advice, general advice, just for insurance. Very important for everyone listening. I am not an advisor. I'm an insurance professional, meaning I work in the insurance company. I develop products on that side. So if you need advice, I can send you to people who actually do advisory. Myself, I look at products. Okay. So on the question of why insurance, your business has risks, and some of those risks you cannot control. And so insurance becomes one of the things that you actually can use in order to get more control of your business. The second aspect, some of the things that you actually need in your business, you actually will not be able to buy again. And so when you insure, you definitely put yourself in a space where you can pool resources in order to safeguard your interests. So, we talk about SMEs and we think it's just a person with a laptop. Sometimes the SME is a person who thinks they have found a rich vein in a mine. And so they go out and they start, they go out and start to get finances, and they want to start digging. Part of the costs that are involved in that, you actually are not going to raise that money if you have a loss. And so it is important then that you insure. You have your protection of your valuables. And your valuables, especially when you are then an SME, are tied. So it's both your assets and your life. Okay. And then we talk about the protection of your balance sheet. Remember, even if it's a laptop, so if, for example, you are a graphic designer, some of the tools that you use may actually run into the levels of your 50, 70,000. That is not money that you really just have just lying there as an SME that you think you can definitely spend again tomorrow. So imagine then if you buy a computer today, and someone sees you as you put this computer in your boot, and you go back to the restaurant because you were meeting a client that you're going to do work for. When you then get home, you realize the computer is gone. Are you able to buy another one tomorrow?
Usually not, because we don't have such cash always lying around,
Exactly. And you're not going to spend 140,000 in 2 days. It doesn't matter, how big you are. So these are the reasons that people need to consider insurance for. So definitely you can get investments, but as you start out, one of the things that you need to realize is that you will be using some of that money that you have in investment anyway, because number one, maybe the clients are not there. Number two, even if they are there, they probably are not paying you as yet. And so you draw deep into those investments. And some of those investments we have to keep, because remember, you're one person. And as that one person, you also have a life, you have children and all those kind of things that also require your resources. And so then to spread that pool, you need insurance. So I mentioned that there has been some research that was done by FinScope last year and Finmark Trust. And some of the things that we gleaned from that is predominantly they were looking at the micro, small and medium enterprises in South Africa. So it is SMME, but they write it differently.
I see that, but it's the same thing, yeah.
Yes, it's the same thing. So they looked at what do we have. And so in total, we can pick up that we have, quite as you said, 58% is the service industry, 26% is your trade, and then the rest of them. And then in the micro space especially, you find that 61% is actually in the service space. It still is large, even in the small space, 48%. So those are the kind of things. And then medium is your industrial. That's where you start finding your mining and manufacturing, which I mentioned that, now you start talking about, it's still a small business, but it requires way more resources. So that's what those are kind of businesses. I don't know if you have an indication, maybe from who we have today, where people actually belong, but those are the three spaces that we're going to be looking at today.
Okay. Yeah, okay. As I said, I think our focus is really it's micro, small, and there's some medium. It's very interesting stats that in the micro space is mostly the services industry. And that's usually the area where we feel we don't need insurance.
Exactly.
But that's where, that's very interesting stats. Yeah.
And then we look at one of the other things that happens, those people that you're talking about, the service people, what else that they do that was found out? They actually use their bank accounts for business. Personal bank accounts, which is not supposed to be, and that is why they end up not covering the costs, and that is why they end up not realizing how much financial services they actually need. And then in insurance, you then find 67% of them don't even have insurance at all. And so, and this is now from the whole pool, really, of the SMEs that they looked at.
Yeah. No, it's actually not. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a question that maybe in your experience or in that space, I think when this research was done, the reasons that are put forward is one of them not perhaps being the fact that it is cumbersome, the requirements maybe from the banks, even though we know that now, recently the banks are trying for SMMEs, but it's those requirements perhaps that are required that just, your micro, if you look at your micro businesses, they are just not, able to meet those requirements.
So there was that aspect, but interestingly, there was another aspect. And what they found is that most micro people actually don't realize that they are running businesses.
Why? What do you mean? It's almost like it feels like a hobby. It feels like that's something I do on the side.
Yes.
It's not that important.
It's just that thing. I hustle.
A business.
I hustle.
Yeah.
So much so that they found most people that are in the micro and small space are women. It's men who venture into the medium space. Women take it as it's a hustle. It's that thing that I do in between everything else. And while I'm waiting for a job, I may do it. While I'm waiting for the kids to grow, I may do it. And they even undermine the kind of things and their successes in that space. So that is what they found.
Makes sense.
They just don't think, and so that was part of that view. And then
it actually talks very well to the psychology of women and how they undermine and underrate themselves and undervalue themselves because they don't see the value or the high value in the type of work that they do. But that's another topic for another day.
It's a topic for another day. We do it all the time.
Psychology of women and men in business it fascinates me. Yeah.
Yes. And so then what then happened when they drilled down into the insurance view. Now remember, this was done. It was done prior to the July unrest, but because they were already involved in it when the July unrest happened, they expanded it. And so then they looked into the issue of SASRIA. Now remember, if you actually don't have insurance, business insurance, chances are you don't have SASRIA cover either. And the people
what's a SASRIA cover? Explain that.
So that is for strikes and riots. So it's specialized. It's normally just a tick. So your broker will, after having asked everything that you need and surveyed all of your needs, will then say, we'll add a SASRIA cover on that. Now, sometimes people can be penny wise and pound foolish. It's actually not a lot of money because it's just added onto what you have. But there are some people who then say, no, I will not take it. And when you don't take it, what then happens is when there are strikes and riots, you actually don't have cover. Why? Because insurers don't cover strikes and riots. Your day-to-day insurer doesn't cover strikes and riots.
Okay. But then is the insurance for small businesses structured differently on Sasria cover? I know that as small businesses, like Phumzile has said in the beginning, you just tell yourself, hey, I'm going by, I don't have money to do this. I'm eliminating costs that actually I'm unable to cover. So if we're looking at these covers, particularly in your Sasria cover, I know that some businesses are big, but is it the structure also for large businesses, small, medium, micro, or it's just the same?
There is structure, but everyone should be able to take it at their own price. So it's not that you're going to pay the same amount of money as a Mercedes-Benz plant in South Africa. Yeah. That's not what you're going to pay, not at all. So it's important that when you take cover, you just make sure that mainly the government, the products that are from the government agencies are just standard for you. Make sure you take those because they do help out in the long run. So they don't sell it direct.
Let me hear
they don't
this
sell
again.
direct. They don't sell direct. They sell via the insurance company. So your broker would then be able to tell you about it.
Okay. Yes. So if you look at that insurance companies, Fundo, the normal insurance, you're saying the day-to-day insurance that we have does not cover riots and strikes. It covers natural disasters, but not riots and strikes.
Not natural, not riots and strike.
That's very interesting because you take it for granted that damage to my property is damage to my property. Yeah. I've got insurance, sort me out.
No. Oh, yeah. And especially, it's an interesting point that you raised. You will see as we go, especially if you're an SME, because as we try to reduce prices for the SME to be able to be covered, we become even more specific. So remember, even if you're an individual, say for example, so I personally, I don't like the idea of having to call an insurer every time I add a computer here, every time I add a sofa there. So I take a wide cover, but then I pay for that wide cover because the insurer is saying, I actually don't know what all you have in your house other than what I saw the first day that you came to insure with me. So then I have to pay for that luxury. But then if you want to reduce your price, then they're going to say, what type of computer do you have? What model? And they list it as that thing. And so then when you lose it, that is what they know you to have. And so if you wake up tomorrow and you say, I got a great client and I decided I'm going to go and buy an Apple Air, a MacBook Air and that's not what they know you to have had. And so that is not covered. That's not covered. And that is one of the things then that as SMEs, we have to be mindful of. Most covers that are out in the market are specific. What is it that you have? And they cover that thing that you said you had. If you do your business, for example, you do your business from home premises. That's what they cover. If you wake up tomorrow and you have one of the incubation centers and they have given you space and now you move there, you need to tell because the risk is different. And so then, and you had specified home. And so now if you have desktops that then get lost in the incubation center, you don't have cover because you never told anyone that you moved to an incubation center. So those are the things that are going to be important. But anyway, we'll get to those. The micro businesses, as you can see, 75% not covered. Remember, 61% of micro businesses are in the service space. So it still goes to what you said when you started. Service, you have a whole lot of SMEs in that service space not covered. And so then if you're not covered, chances are you're not eligible for Sasria anyway. So those are the things that we then looked at. The risks, though, that are affecting your businesses: damage to the business, theft of stock. So in as much as we have the service people, some others wake up and decide to sell stuff. So they import things from Dubai, they import things from China, but they don't have cover for these things. And so then if the house is broken into where they work or whatever premise that they keep their stock in gets broken into, they don't have cover. And what we found is that 58% of people who actually have that particular risk do not have cover. We'll skip the COVID-19 restrictions because that was a specific thing. And then you have loss of income. The services, most of the people in the services space, as you mentioned, are consultants. They see themselves as consultants. What happens when you then go to hospital?
Yeah, because you are your business. So when you are sick, no income. How does this work? Because I've looked into some of these covers, especially for us consultants. Hey, is this catching? So how does it work? Yeah.
So the broker who talks to you would look at what your income actually is. Would look at what you're focusing, your book of business, that a book of work that is coming through, and therefore be able to say, this is the income that you have. And that is then what would be covered. It is covered specifically, though, for business owners. It's called a key man cover. It's very different from your normal day-to-day life cover. And by the way, that is something that is very important, that you make sure that your normal day-to-day life cover doesn't exclude certain things if you are the business owner.
Yeah.
Remember, there's a question that says occupation.
Yeah.
Remember, there's a question that says occupation.
Yeah.
So, for example, I am employed. So if I decide to move out and go focus on a business, I need to go back and say, I now am self-employed, so that they can review my cover and make sure that I am covered for the risks of a person who is now self-employed. And if I don't do that, I may then, it happens on both assets and life. So the key is wherever and whatever stage of your life you're in, tell your insurer.
So if you had life insurance, let's say you were working for a corporate, you are now a business person, you actually need to go back to it and review, Uguti, are you covered as a business person? And also if it includes a lot of income.
Remember, a loss of income for an employed person is something different from a loss of income now that you're
as a business person, yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
And then we need to look at, so then there is damage to my place of business. That is a risk that is there. Business equipment failure. So now you work on your 70,000 laptop. And then what then? You have to have that equipment covered. And then you have the death of an owner. That is part of that key man cover. It's very important. We need to know. Especially then, if you start adding partners. And one of the things that, especially women, we don't realize and recognize is the three of us could be in a business. But we then say, no, so-and-so does this part, so-and-so does this part. But what we don't realize is the importance of each person in this business of ours. And we need to make sure that there is cover for the business, because if then, I die, what is that impact to the business?
Yeah, so there's a direct financial impact to the business, because there's a role that you play to bring money into the business.
There you go. And now the business is left without. And then illness, obviously, of the owner. Those are things that people didn't, that were high in the list, that they had never thought about, and suddenly found themselves in a situation where they now have to wake up and say, "Ooh, we actually do have a problem." So the key really is this is risk management. And if you're going to do, this is a quote from Richard Esfeld. It says, if the key to risk management is never putting yourself in a position where you cannot live to fight another day. And that is what insurance, by the way, is all about. Yeah. Making sure that whatever happens in your business, you can live to fight another day.
Yeah, very true.
So what should I insure? So let's look at it. You have the business owner. Look at your personal liability, death, disability, we spoke about. There's loss of income, we spoke of. But I'm going to go through each one of these in a detailed space. In the service space, public liability. What happens if you advise, and indemnity? What happens if you advise people on something that is completely incorrect? And
listen, this is big in the consulting space, and I'm seeing it coming up, you believe it or not, in the coaching and the healing space.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
People take it, healers and consultants, they take it for granted. It's spiritual work and whatnot. A person can sue you.
Yes.
That you said, I must go do this, that, and that, and it had dire repercussions on me or the family or whatever.
Exactly.
It is key for, especially because in our country, there's a beautiful rise in consultants, in healers and coaches. But we are not just healers. I always say to the guys that I coach, we are not just healers, we are also business people.
Business people.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then the last one, cybersecurity. Then you, as you said, you go into consulting. Then you lose that computer and my details are all over the place. Do I not sue you?
Yeah.
Then we go into trade. We'll talk about that. There's equipment, there's stock, there's cash that we need to deal with. In manufacturing, you have your premises. The premises may be yours or rented. You still have to specify. And then you have raw materials. I have an interesting story on manufacturing. Just last year, I was offering, obviously, the services to people to say, let me have a look at what you have, just to make sure that you're properly covered. And a friend referred a gentleman who actually was running a manufacturing plant. And then COVID happened and he was left with raw material. But this raw material is actually flammable once you leave it there for a while. And he was working around. He says, I have everything, but he only had he had private liability, not sort of personal liability, nothing else. And so effectively, if that thing blew up, he actually would not have been covered. He didn't have anything of that sort by himself. So you need to look at what are your raw materials, what is your finished stock, and then equipment. And then for your employees, we mentioned Sasria earlier. There's also COIDA, which is your injuries and diseases at work. And I have met people who have then said, because I worked in a company that looked at that at some point, and I met a few clients who felt that they were too small to actually pay for COIDA. COIDA does cater for small companies, so the price is different because it is calculated from your payroll. It's calculated from your payroll. So if your payroll is small, that's what you're going to be paying anyway. So that's what it is. But they thought that they were too small to actually have cover. And this one happened to a friend of mine. She because she was still bootstrapping, she decided she's not going to pay for COIDA. Lo and behold, a staff member, very critical staff member in her manufacturing plant, got injured. Now she had to pay for hospital, pay salaries for this person because remember they got injured at work. So it's hospital, it's salaries while they are then recuperating. It's everything that is to do with that injury that person had suffered. Your physios, all of those things. Luckily with COIDA, you can actually make a claim and then take repercussions later, but it's a wise thing to make sure that you pay for that upfront. And then obviously in other places, you then have your death and disability, because remember, COIDA says you must have been doing your work which is a gap then in SMEs, because sometimes, because you have 5 people at work, they may not have been doing their work.
Yeah,
so you are short a driver now.
With the virtual working, like it's even more difficult.
So there is that. But then, for example, you find in panel beating shops that on Friday, everyone is a driver. So you get hired to be a receptionist. But then when they have to deliver cars, you also go out and deliver cars as a receptionist. And then the question that gets asked is, what is the role? The role is receptionist. So why did she get to be injured while driving a car? Oh, well, we were short of drivers. COIDA is not going to pay. So what you need then is a group personal accident.
Okay.
Complicated, eh?
So
we take this for granted.
Yeah.
Like we understand, if I have this, I can ask you to actually, I think there are many interesting stories in that regard. When people,
there are interesting stories. So the key really is, whatever you do as a business, look at all of the risks that may come out of that particular business. So then let's look at the business owner. So the business owner has 2 things that they need to be aware of. It's the non-life considerations as well as the life considerations. And here we're talking about this person in the service space. You're in the service space, you're not employed anymore. One of the things that sometimes, one of the things that happen in South Africa is most people who are employed don't actually have their own life covers. They have the life cover that is given by the employer. It happens. And so then when you get out, make sure to go and get your own, because now you don't have Nini, whatever company it is, Nini Coca-Cola or whatever, who actually makes sure that you have cover. So make sure that you are looking at your life cover and you're specific. I'm now self-employed and I'm looking for cover for business owners. Make sure you have your adequate death cover, disability, as well as your loss of income. Those are the first key. There are other things in a life insurance product that you may want to consider, but make sure on those 3. And then on the non-life side, you have clients. You're going to go driving. So motor, because you have to visit those clients. You have to go market. Remember, you have all of these things. Make sure you're on the road. You have your liability and your indemnity. So make sure of those at least at a minimum. And then once you then start picking up people, or you actually, just as a survival kit, first thing, fire. So if there's fire, so what are you going to do? You need to make sure that you are covered for that. It would normally have your smoke and your flames. And then while you were busy extinguishing the fire, you happen to pour water on your computer. That's all part of it. Or your documents that you were going to use, all of those things are included in that fire. Okay. And then we look at office contents. So as we sit today, I'm in my little office at home. And so part of it is, what is in this office? What are all the things that need to be covered in this office? So it's the contents, it's the documents, and then liability that is related to the documents, and then the cost of working. Because now, if there has been fire in this space, I remember I don't necessarily pay for this office that I'm in now, but now if it catches fire, that means that I have to now go to Regis or whoever and pay for space to work. So in the meantime, I then get some money to pay towards that increased cost of working. And then you have your business interruption, which then covers your business for the financial loss if something happens that results in a stoppage. So sometimes, yes, now remember there was fire and then I poured water in my computer and now there's a stoppage of sorts because maybe I have some software that is not readily available. And so I have to wait for people to make available this software or some other tool. And in the meantime, I have financial losses. So then business interruption covers for that. And then you look at your accidental damage, and then you have accounts receivables. Very key. You've now done the business, conducted the work, but for some reason, they're not paying you. Okay. And
all right, so you can cover your book, your accounts receivable book. Which this is my closing balance at any point in time over the average. Cover me for this in case these people don't pay me, and I have to write off this.
Exactly.
I have to write off this amount.
So can you imagine then one of the reasons some of the SMEs didn't survive COVID is because they didn't have that. And it's covered. Now people don't refund you.
Important.
People don't refund you. So what are you going to do?
Big businesses are covered on these things, eh?
Of course.
But as small businesses, the ones who really need it, because we don't have the buffer, we actually don't know about these things. This is key, guys. This is key.
And then you have your public and employer liability. You send out people to these places, and they come and, they damage things, and I sue. How do you have money to pay? You see, so when we talk about that trade, when we talk about, accommodation, all of those kind of businesses, make sure the public and employer liability is in place. I may say that, you've seen hotels and they will say you can put everything in a safe, but in some of the places, the safe is not safe. The safe is not safe. And then I lose and I come back and I say I had a Rolex in there. You and on your side, you're just a guest house. Do you have money to pay for my Rolex?
Oof. Yeah.
And then you have your business cards. So it's damage to your vehicles, and that is due to accidents, fire, hail, and theft. Because I don't know if you saw, I think it's about 2 months ago, someone who had a truck lost his truck, and he lost the truck because the truck driver just took the truck out and never returned.
Yeah, no, we also had a similar case at home when, in the taxi business, and the driver just disappeared with the car, and there was no insurance, and that was it. That was the end of it.
That's it.
And you couldn't retrieve it.
No.
It was never retrieved.
No, the car was never found. The driver was never found. And the car was, it was newish, And now I was thinking, as I was preparing for this, I was thinking about all these things. Growing up, Ekaya, running businesses, and I'm a tuck shop and running taxi business, and I was thinking about insurance was never spoken about.
I'm a tuck shop. Then you go and exactly
tuck shop. Anything you come back, it's on fire. Your entire stock worth of thousands of rands and that's why small businesses you are unable to recover from that anytime soon.
Exactly.
You are just unable to recover from that.
So now you lose the actual tuck shop and the stock inside. And remember, the stock, you had used money, and that is not money now that is available to you. So it's a whole lot of risks that people need to consider and make sure that they are comfortable, they are covered for. So we spoke about the service business. We spoke about the electronic equipment. So it's computers, licensed software, scanners, printers. You may even, my son just the other day was saying to me, he actually wants a 3D printer. If I go out, not that I'm going to buy it, if I go out and buy a 3D printer, then obviously I need that. I need to have that covered because he says he wants to do some business. And so he's going to print these things himself. And so then, that is cover that you need. And sometimes the printers are specialized because you have a type of thing that you do that requires a specialized printer. So I spoke earlier about graphic designers. So graphic designers especially, and I see sometimes they want to tell people that they can give you a logo for 50 rands. And it's tough times, so definitely maybe they can do that. But then those people have specialized computers, specialized software. They have specialized printers so that they can get to a desired quality of output. And so that actually costs, and they need to have that covered at the minimum. And then you have cyber insurance, okay, which then includes your business interruption, reputational damage. So I don't know if you saw what happened with, what's this company, TransUnion.
Oh, ITC. We need to sue those people. If
they do have cover.
What is that? Those people have all our details. They collect our data on your credit card, on whatever, whether you have a bad or good record. They keep, in fact,
they keep that.
I was like, all of information is leaked. It's out there now.
But then as a service person, you are a micro TransUnion. Because Phum, how many clients have you had?
A few.
What is a few?
Yeah, and then you have their data.
You have their data, and they have paid you.
Yeah,
they have paid you. So someone can reconstruct their banking details.
Oh, true.
And so then they can do things with your clients or to your clients.
Oh.
Okay. And then you have your professional indemnity, which is legal and litigation costs. And then we spoke about that. Make sure. Equipment. We spoke about that, and that is the damage and loss to property. So now it's general equipment. So you have your electronics, and then you have your general equipment. And then your business all risk, which is then you travel. You travel because you are a consultant. And so now your things are not covered only when you are sitting in your office in Johannesburg. When you have a client out in Port Elizabeth and something happens in Port Elizabeth, you need to make sure that the company, the insurer, will still pay for those items. So make sure of your business all risk as well. Okay, that's on the service side. On the trade side, building, you have to store, you have stock. You're storing your stock somewhere. Where are you storing it? Make sure that you have cover for that. Why? Because there may be a fire, there may be all sorts of things, and therefore, if those things happen, you need to be sure that someone can make good for you on that. And then you have cash. Money that you have kept at your premises. So the building goes up on fire, and you run a dressmaking shop or something like that, and some of the dresses that people make are 3,000 rands a pop. And so, because I'm not even married, but I've seen married people actually do that. They don't want their husband to know that they actually bought a new dress, and so they go out and they pay in cash. And so now you have all of these 3,000s in cash. The building goes up in flames. What else did you lose? Cash. You lost cash. And so then you need to make sure that you paid for that. And then you have your goods in transit. And so I need, for example, as we speak, a dress for a party on Saturday. And so chances are when the delivery is made, it's not only my dress that is going to be part of those deliveries. You are delivering to Johannesburg, you're delivering to Pretoria, Cape Town, Durban. What happens in between? Because remember, even if I had paid, if I don't get my dress, I'm going to keep coming back to say, I still haven't received my dress. What happened in between? The person got hijacked, the courier company got hijacked, something happened. That has nothing to do with me. I bought a dress. I didn't buy the courier company. And so then if you're going to deliver effectively 2 dresses to me, you need to make sure that someone is paying you for the second dress. So those are things that you need to, if you're in the trade business, you need to consider. And then fidelity, which is your dishonest and unlawful actions by your employees.
What's that about?
So it's dishonest. So we talk about deliveries. The delivery just never happens, or it comes in. but it is an incorrect one. Or they come in and they say something that actually sullies your reputation. It's all those kind of things that you need to look at. Or I saw an incident, I think it was last year, one of the companies that actually do dresses as well. Someone wrote on Facebook about how bad their service is. Now, remember, in most cases, the person who is doing who's doing the packages and deliveries is not the owner. So now you've lost business because of something that your people are actually doing. And so that covers that. So the good is not lost in transit, but in this case, because of reputation, you have a shop full of stock and no buyers.
So in this case, you need to prove that loss of income, though.
You would have to. But everywhere, remember, in all of these things, you actually there has to be proof that you lost income. That's why there's an assessor. So you hit a car, you call and you say, my car has been hit. They say, oh, we'll send out an assessor. Why? Because we have to know that really the car is damaged. So there will always be a proof of sorts that is required. Very important to check your policy for what proof is actually required. And then theft, which is then all of the losses that are covered to your own stock, to clients' goods, all of those kind of things. Because in some cases, I've already finished paying and now it gets lost. In some cases, you have, for example, I had an incident where some law people, not legal people, law enforcers, wanted to take a car of mine because it didn't have registration plates as yet. And so now, since then, I insist that I only take delivery only when a car has, registration plates. But then the problem is, while that car is sitting there, someone has to have it covered. And so then that is a client's good that is sitting on the floor, on the dealership floor. And so you need to make sure that there is cover for that, because if then something happens to it, I still come back and I say, but I didn't take delivery. And therefore you have to pay for it.
So it's the same as, a normal mechanic.
Yes.
And they were busy with the car. They needed to keep it overnight. They're not done with the car, and then there was fire or something, and the workshop was burned.
It is on the buildings. So if it's fire, it's in the buildings.
The owner of the car is wanting their car. And we take it for granted. That's also another business that Ekaya they rent, by the way. And I'm thinking at any point in time there was like 5 cars in the yard. If anything happened, every one of those owners will be saying, I want my car back.
I want my car.
Exactly. No,
so there's I don't know if you've seen them, but in some of the shopping centers, they now have tailors as well. So think about those tailors, or even the tailors who work from home. So I deliver a shirt to you for you to, because, well, COVID happened and I need extra panels. I delivered a shirt. I delivered a shirt. And therefore, my expectation is I should be able to get a shirt back. So what happens now when you can't give me my shirt back because someone stole it?
A laundry service. There's now lots of laundry services. People might take it for granted. I gave you my Chanel dress. I want my dress back. I can sue you. Yeah.
Or you didn't wash it, or you didn't. My white stuff has got stains. That's one of the one that I've seen. They don't take anything that is white or something, that needs,
because they know they will pay.
There are always issues with, no, you've messed up my white garment.
There you go. Manufacturing. So interesting thing about manufacturing, a welder is a manufacturer.
Oh, it's not providing a service.
It's a manufacturer. Remember, they wear goggles. They have to use very dangerous tools that they need to take care of.
Yeah.
So there is an advance in terms of specifying what business you are. That's not a service. That's a manufacturing business.
That's a
so
new.
If, for example, you go on to COIDA, where they will list you is on manufacturing because you're a welder. So as a welder, then you have your advanced loss of profit, which means you're covering your profit. So I then say to you, as a welder, I need 5 gates. And therefore you start calculating and you already have a profit that you're looking into. But then I never take delivery. So you've lost. So you can actually cover that because you had an advanced loss of profit. Equipment we've already spoken about. And then you have a plant all risk. If you are a welder, obviously you need to have a place to work because the flames, those splinters can hurt people. And so you need to have a place to work. And so that place that you're working at, you need an all risk for that. And then you have, especially then for construction workers, you have your contract works. So you have some of the people who say they are in service. You have a project manager, construction project manager. So I contract for this person to renovate my house. That person is going to have employers, is going to have subcontractors, there are suppliers because there is going to be some glass, some aluminium, some roofing and all those kind of things. They need to take cover because if something happens, they have a problem and they have a liability. There's machinery, so sometimes you have your machinery breakdown that is on manufacturers, movement, transit, and erection works damage. The good news, though, on all of these that I've spoken about is insurers have moved from, when I started working, there used to be something that is called, I forgot the name, but it was really for big companies. And so you almost took everything that was comprehensive cover. Now, insurers have moved to where you actually can itemize the things that you want to take cover for, which then makes the cover cheaper. Yeah. So I asked a friend of mine,
and we need that as SMMEs. Cost is an issue, guys.
It's an issue. So I asked a friend of mine, how much should people expect to pay? And she said, and he said to me, who is in the broker space, he said, it depends on what you want to cover for. You can pay 600 rands, you can pay 1,500 in some companies. So it is not astronomical, but you need to understand what risks you do need to cover, which ones can you effectively stomach. But always remember, the ones that you said you are able to absorb, you will have to absorb them because there is no shame, it's just a small company, maybe we should look kindly on them. You didn't cover yourself for it. So for example, if you don't cover goods in transit, you don't have cover for goods in transit. It's going to be an exclusion in your policy to say it excludes goods in transit. We'll cover them when they are in the building, but we don't cover them when they leave the shop. So you need to be mindful of that. Make sure that you're covering the right things. So if you have employees, then, as I mentioned earlier, job-related accidents and diseases, that's COIDA. Make sure. It is a huge cost. You don't understand how big. So remember, if you take COIDA, you are talking about, as I mentioned earlier, if this person, let's look back at the welding shop, the particles, the metal particles get into the person's eye. That person then moves to hospital. So even if you don't have a car, you can the trip from your premises to the hospital is actually taken care of. You then are in hospital. However long they stay in hospital, that is taken care of. If they are going to have that eye removed and replaced with something else, that is covered. Now, if that person now, you have a welder with one eye, chances are maybe they won't be able to work again. Then there is a pension that is allocated for that person, and that also gets paid. So you have all of those things that are covered. If there is death, that is also covered. The pension, if they had children who are under 18, they're not going to come knocking on your door every day to say, but this is the company where my father died, because that cost is taken care of. They will go to school up until they are 18. That school will always be paid for. So it's all those kind of things that are covered under QUADA. If then it's unrelated to jobs, then you have your GPA that you can have a look at. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And group life, personal accident and group life. And most companies, you'll find that some life companies do now have solutions specific to SMEs. So it is priced.
Okay.
It is priced, and it looks at the risks that are in an SME.
Okay.
So it is not a watered down version of what a big company has.
Yeah, because it used to be like that.
It used to be a watered down version.
Costly. Yeah, it truly was. SMMEs were priced like they were big corporates, and that's why I think SMMEs were like, this is nonsense. So it's a good thing that at least now there's a specific focus on SMMEs, and there's like an on-demand type of a model where I can pick and choose. Good, here are my biggest risks. Cover me here, so that you don't want me to buy this huge package that I feel I'm paying for, and it's not going to help me anyway. Okay.
Exactly. So in some cases, for example, if you're a plumber, they cover the tools of work for a plumber. That's it.
That's interesting.
Because you can't be a plumber who doesn't have tools. And so the tools are very important to you, so they then get to understand what are the tools, and they cover just that.
I think that's important, and to know, for SMEs, because what happened in the past, we don't have insurance, or I work at someone as a plumber, I work at someone's house as I was drilling, then I also damaged the tiles around the bathtub, and I don't have money to fix that. Then the owner keep on following me. Sometimes I'm even afraid of going to work. I use other, dubious ways. I have to find ways to go because I don't have the money. So I think that is important, and maybe we need to look at, interventions to inform, I think, SMEs with regard to insurance.
This is very important, because I think that there's still this thing, understanding which insurance is expensive. They charge us like corporates. It actually does not serve me, but the insurance company. But I mean, if you take a simple caterer, for example, and you go and cater, people get poisoned, and they like, I had to pay hospital bills, etc. I want the money back. You made me sick. That can put you out of business, because now you need to start running, away from people. You can't focus on growing your business, and all you could say, let's sit around the table, let's see how we can assist you, and then we sort this thing out, and you make a claim, and then you continue with the business. And in fact, that same person will be your referral and grow your business. The very person who was, you were running away from and acting all scallum, etc. So yeah. Okay.
And no more running away, being scared.
No more running away. SMMEs and running away. Oh, how that kills your business.
What you are saying, it's so important, because I heard you were talking about someone insuring, the most critical areas for 600. I mean, really, if you look at the business, the amount, or if you look at the income statement of businesses, large business, the insurance, the amount of insurance they pay, and you think, oh Lord, I'm a small business person. How can I get such an amount? And it's different. Yeah.
So in terms of prioritization, Phum, you said it earlier. You're a small business, so your business is you. What are the risks? So if something is so it's multiple. The risk as far as your business goes, and the risk as far as if you cannot now do the business. Key. And then you look at employees, and my main thing is there are government provided insurances. Make sure you take care of those upfront. So we spoke about COIDA, and obviously we know UIF and things. So small businesses also run away from paying UIF. And the issue is, are you going to pay people while they are on maternity leave? Do you understand? Whereas if there's UIF, all of those things are in there, so you can look at those and make sure. So between those two, you should be covered for your employees. And then you look at your pain points. What would lead to a shutdown for your company if it were to happen? Very key. And then if that would lead to a shutdown, how do I then take care of that risk? So definitely, if you know that, so remember, insurance is a risk management tool. So two things, it's either you have money stashed somewhere for it, or you insure for it. And those are the two mechanisms that you can use. And so then if you know that you actually do not have that amount of money to stash away and forget about it up until something happens, then you go out and you insure for it. And quite as you're saying, you pay 600 or pay 1,500, and you know you have peace of mind for that particular pain. And so those are the things that are important. And then just generally, my advice, get advice. Get advice. You do not know. I work in insurance. I have brokers. I refuse to be caught in a situation where someone is going to say to me, but sister, you were never covered for that part. So I have brokers, and there is a percentage, yes, in the premium that you pay for having had the broker. But by the way, in some cases, even if you do it direct, you are going to pay because someone picked up the phone and called you. So there's payment either way. So get advice. And remember, the reason it's important for you to get advice is, as you ladies sit there, your risks are not the same. So you can't look next door. You can't look next door and say, that's what they have, I'll have it too. The risks are different. So get the right cover for yourself, which is my number 2. Get the best possible solution for where your business is and for what your business is. And most importantly, get that from independent advice. So independent brokers, with multiple companies that they are signed up for, so that you don't have a situation where people box you in because they are only selling this particular company.
Where do we get these independent brokers and advisors from?
They are there.
If you don't want to go through these big corporates and they send you someone, and this someone only knows corporates, and they speak to you and you're busy telling them, you know, my taxi business, you know, my spaza shop, and they look at you and they can't advise.
What a waste of time.
I'm talking from experience. And I thought to myself, like, what is going on? But this is years back. It seems like the insurance industry is trying to catch up. There are people who live lives differently. Let's see how we can cater for them. But I'm telling you, so it's important that we know, where do we go as SMMEs to get these guys? If you don't have the details, Fundo, it's also fine. We will post it later.
I will send them. Yes.
It's very important that we can contact these guys. Umuntu ozoza understand ukuthi laundry business yami collecting ngubo 3 streets down the road. Umuntu ongeke understand ukuthi you went and what are you talking about? And as I said, I went through this. I've went through 2 or 3 brokers, and they couldn't understand spaza shop business, taxi business, growing they just don't. They just
and also
they make you buy something that is not compatible to your risk profile.
Yes.
Very important.
That's why then people start giving up on this insurance space.
Because when you buy something that is
my actual, that example was very nice. So all I do is I'm a welder, or I was just hired to something, and then my Itrillium fell and it broke their tile. A simple thing like that. Can you just cover me for that simplicity of risk? Now I'm being made to buy big things and a big package that doesn't serve me, so it becomes meaningless to me. And another thing, insurance is always sold as from a fear point of view.
Yeah.
And that I also don't like. And that's also something else that, that's why people don't want this thing. Because once you start stimulating this fear all the time, you're going to die, you're going to lose, you're going to what. I think
that is not the case.
Insurance is really now, the narrative and the languaging around it is truly a risk management tool, as you have stated before, to manage and ensure your sustainability of your company. That's it. That's it.
That's all it is.
Stop scaring me and what, and you make it, it's just a risk management tool. Like how you would go and say, I want to take steam and take vitamins to protect me from COVID. It's actually that simple.
It is that simple.
And I really would like us to start talking this type of language so that, we help our SMMEs with, it's a risk management tool to help me sustain my business so that I don't have headaches and I don't run away from people.
And if it's put this simple as well, like you've just done it, I'm telling you, I think probably you would have so many sign-ups of insurance from small, because now you're talking our language as small businesses, because what we know, and as well, I think what I wanted to add is that the other issue, Phumzile, as you're saying that, it's like they're putting fear, you're scared this will happen like tomorrow or now. But the other, over and above that, there's this thing that, because of commission, and then now brokers sell us things that we don't want. They don't even look at your business to say, I'm tailoring this for, even if you are going to pay 700 or 600, but it's something that actually your business needs. You don't have to pay additional cost that you don't need. So I think the other thing that we just run away from brokers is, we know, like Phumzile, for the taxi business, they will come, you'll say, no, these are tax. They want to sell you insurance of covering a fleet management system in a large organization. You don't have
for a courier company. That time I only have 3 taxis. I just want to cover my risk for I'm a taxi or my 3 that are really, like, if you look at the taxis, they are, some of them are 8 years old, but they bring me money. Can I have adequate cover that covers that? No, they want to make you take cover for a quantum that are so new, brand new, a whole fleet of cars. Like, it's important for brokers to speak the language of the actual risk.
Yeah. So that is why
example is, even on personal insurance, what Outsurance did when I lost my job, like I'm not traveling to work anymore. I don't have money. So they were like, probably because they don't want to lose you as a customer, they're like, okay, but let's look at maybe where, for example, you are involved in an accident and then, you have to pay someone else. So let's look at this. Let's reduce it to this. And I mean, I was paying 200 rands for insurance from probably 1,005, and it was reduced to that. So I think people can look at that and assist us as small businesses to work on that. Because for me, obviously, if I get into an accident and maybe I hit a pole, for me, then okay, I will lose. I will not have to travel. I will see how. But if I hit someone else, so Outsurance identified that if you hit someone else, you're going to have to pay. There's nothing that is your car. Yes, so maybe, we can, things like that can be looked at. Yeah.
Exactly. And then revise. So don't overgrow your cover. So it's either on growth or on reduction, but revise your cover so that you actually are paying the right amount. And then buy the claim, not the premium.
What does that mean?
Will they pay? And it goes with the first one. So you get the appropriate advice so that you know that if something happens, the claim will be admitted. Because in that continued reduction of premium, you end up in a situation where you actually are not covered for anything much. So you end up as an SME with an excess of 20,000 rands, for example. What are you going to do? If your excess is 20,000 and really now you don't have it, what then are you going to do? Because you were buying the premium. So you make sure you have the right conversations, and you make sure then that you are paying what you are buying is the peace of mind to say, if something happens, I have cover, done. I don't care who says, even if they change management, even if the broker is not there anymore, even I have cover. And then the last one, tell the truth. So most importantly, get someone, the reason I'm saying get that advice, you get someone who's going to sit with you and you're able to sketch exactly what kind of business you do, so that they do together with you. So you already have identified risks, but they also are trained to identify those risks, and therefore they can pick up whether or, when there is something that you're missing out on, or when there is something that you are undercovering, in terms of you don't think it's much of a risk, whereas it is. So you look at those things.
Or maybe
and so
it's
then
just an understanding. Maybe it's just a pure, I didn't understand. So it goes back to the previous slides, that you need to understand what requirements to prove. Because the onus is always on you. So if I'm saying I need to cover my laptop, I already need to understand, how do I prove that my laptop had water, or I lost it, or whatever, or things like that. I think it's good to always have that end in mind, so that you don't find yourself having to lie and tiptoe and things like that. So an advisor is very important to say, if people sue you, or you did their eyebrows, now they are swelling, this is the type of proof that the insurance will need from you. So already think along those lines. Always know, those types of things.
Yes. So for the last part, you said books. Books.
Yes. So I said I wanted you to share at least 2 or 3 books that you think are very important in the life of an SMME. Yeah.
Think and Grow Rich.
You can't go wrong with them.
You can't go wrong.
Yeah. Art of War, of course. Yes. Anton Rupert. Yes. Brilliant books.
There is also, by the same author at the moment, Ibe Domise, there is a book called Fortunes. It's I think it's recently released. It is at Exclusive Books. And it goes into, he looks at various people, because where he's starting from is, interestingly, as COVID and everything else, and BEE hasn't had much effect on some of these guys, the old Afrikaans business owners. And he delves into how they have built their businesses. And
what's the name of that book?
Fortunes.
It
actually, the cover is similar. It is similar to this, it's just Fortunes.
So that is interesting that I was actually reading up on BE and the effects of it, because I'm writing up a little blog yesterday. DA wants to scrap BE as it stands, right? And they want to introduce, Okay.
So that book, Fortunes, that book, Fortunes, they have multiple of these business owners, and they talk about how those people have continued or have started businesses, even in this era of BEE. And how they have thrived. And the reason I'm recommending it, exactly, and the reason I'm recommending it is, it doesn't matter what race you are. When you start, you start. And so what are the lessons that we can take from everyone else who is actually starting a business?
Yeah.
Remember, we also start with family. Other people start with family. But if you read, for example, with the Anton Rupert story, you will see how they actually started a Sanla. How they, families were not donating, but were putting in money to start businesses, your laundromats, because they decided that they wanted to create an economy. So it is as I believe, as a business owner, you are starting because you want to create some business, so an economy for yourself and your family as well as your community. So the lessons are the same. Let's learn from the people that have come before us.
Completely
Yes.
true.
But just in the end, you already said insurance is a risk management tool. That is all that it is. Don't be afraid of it. Exploit it, because if all you have is actually 2,000 rands, and that is all you can afford to give every month, chances are that is better than not having anything at all for the sustainability of your company. I like that word. It's about sustainability of your company.
That's what it is. That's what it is. And I think I've realized when I speak like that, people start easing down. But insurance is a very sensitive one, except when it comes to funeral insurance. That's the one thing that us SMMEs and Black people understand. You don't need to convince us twice.
You don't need to convince anyone.
You don't need to work hard to get us to take life insurance. Funeral cover. It's a type of insurance.
They normally say in insurance. So they say insurance is bought. Sorry, is sold, not bought.
Yeah,
that is true. Except for funeral covers.
Except for
funeral covers are bought.
Yeah. But also, I think when it comes to funeral covers, as much as we want to blame our Black community, but then it's a different conversation. The insurance space have made sure that they are able to speak the language. That's why people were able to understand it and buy into it. But they haven't moved that fast to speak the language of small businesses, especially for Black businesses. They haven't moved that fast. They moved faster in that space. So I think, yes, they have started to turn the tide. They need to move that fast and make that noise and simplify that language, simplify the barriers to buy a simple insurance that will help me as a simple welder, things like that. And, once they start doing that, people will start realizing, oh, okay, we've moved the tide,
Yes,
okay,
definitely.
Thank you so much,
Fundo.
This was a very informative session, and because it's recorded, I think it's a good thing that people can go through the presentation and go through the recording. It's an important one. I have also picked up a few nuggets, very important nuggets as an SMME myself. So thank you so much for sharing your time with us and sharing the books with us. I want to get that last one. And yeah, thank you very much, Mfundo.
Thank you. Thanks, Bosha. Thanks, Phum. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Sibongile, anything?
Thank you so much. We are so appreciative, and thanks for I think I've learned quite a lot. And I think for me, we will invite you in one of the SMMEs conferences to actually speak again to us about this topic, because I think it's a very, very, very critical topic, particularly when we may even call you when we speak about the sustainability of small businesses. Just a real, because we don't like the fluff bits, even though you put up a presentation, but you talk directly to us and you are talking directly to the pain points that we have. So I think this is quite a critical one. So I really, really am, grateful that you came to grace our webinar to share this, information with us.
Yeah, and we went over time. Imagine, look, we thought we were gonna be an hour. It's an hour, almost going to an hour and a half. Thank you very much, Fundo. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much, even in the audience. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thanks to the audience as well for joining us. Thanks a lot.